A very good evening to all present. Myself Pooja Jitar. We have to discuss the retrieval of atmospheric temperature profile and trace gases. So the retrieval means it is from the satellite data. So we have to discuss atmospheric temperature profile and trace gases. So when I say profile means the temperature at various levels in the atmosphere, like at the surface at 5 kilometer above, 10 kilometer above, and also we'll discuss in terms of the pressure coordinates. Like you must be knowing, as we move up high in the atmosphere from the surface, pressure decreases. So we can say that the atmospheric profile at the various atmospheric level in terms of the kilometer or in terms of the pressure, and the pressure we mention normally in the hectopascal. To discuss the retrieval for small theoretical background, let's discuss few points. First is the atmospheric sounding. So how do we define the atmospheric sounding? It is a technique of the retrieval of various atmospheric parameter at various levels in the atmosphere. Means at anyhow I have to get the various atmospheric parameters at various levels. For example, temperature at various levels, humidity at various levels, trace gases like ozone, carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, etc. at the various levels. The second question is, why do we need sounding? So I said I need the sounding, but means temperature at various levels, but why do I need? So it is required for the various numerical weather prediction models. Numerical weather prediction models are the models used for the forecasting. Then comes the what are the sources of the sounding. The first coming is the radio sonde, drop sonde, rocket sonde, and GPS sonde. So radio sonde, first is radio sonde. It is the instrument which is carrying a balloon filled with the gas. So it goes up. Now when it goes up, we put the instrument inside it. For example, a temperature sensor. So I'll put a temperature sensor with the balloon. As it goes up in the atmosphere, it will sense the temperature at various levels in the atmosphere and send the information back to the ground. So that is one method to get the atmospheric sounding. Then comes a drop sonde. In the drop sonde, we take a flight and then drop the instrument from the flight towards the ground. So when the instrument comes down, then it takes a reading. Then is a rocket sonde. So instead of the balloon, we use a rocket to send the instrument in the atmosphere. Then is a GPS sonde. GPS sonde is similar to the radio sonde along with the GPS instrument to get the lat long and height readings. Now what are the limitations of this technique? It gives a limited spatial and temporal coverage, because if I want to have the readings all over the India, I need to launch the radio sonde from the various places, and of course if I put at the various places, it's very costly. And in addition to that, it is difficult to launch the radio sondes from the ocean areas. So we have the limited coverage, and that too over the land only. But the advantage of this is we get the better accuracy, because this is the in situ measurement. Then because of its limitation, we have the alternative source, which is the satellite sensors. Now what are the advantages of the satellite sensor? It gives a high spatial and temporal resolution. And the disadvantage is accuracy and vertical resolution. As is the case for all the parameters, it is the indirect measurement, because the sensor will be giving me energy only, and I have to convert that energy into the useful information, means the temperature or the trace gases in my case. So I have to get the temperature from the energy. So this is the indirect measurement. So there the retrieval techniques will be involved. So accuracy of the retrieval technique will determine the accuracy of this technique. And the vertical resolution, like I want a temperature profile suppose at every 1 kilometer, but my sensor may not give me such a high accuracy and such a good vertical resolution. We'll see how it in the further discussion. Okay, then is a remote sensing of the atmosphere. See, we need to get the information about the atmosphere. I have to see how the energy interact with the atmosphere. So various ways of the electromagnetic radiation interaction with atmosphere is absorption or emission, scattering or reflection. And in our case, for the retrieval of the atmospheric parameter, gaseous absorption is very important. So radiation interacts with the atmospheric gases in the following way, depending on the energy we are sensing, means the wavelength or the frequency we are sensing. Now, if we see the ultraviolet and other shorter wavelengths, then in the atmosphere, ionization dissociation can take place. Means various gases can ionize or dissociate in the ultraviolet and short wavelength region, like this region. Here in this region, transmittance is very less. The transmittance is less, it is basically due to the oxygen. See, it means in this region, oxygen in the atmosphere is dissociating and ionizing due to the absorption of the ultraviolet radiation or the visible radiation. Then come the electronic transitions. So electronic transitions need little lesser energy than the ionization, means it can occur even at the little higher wavelengths. So it occurs even at the visible wavelength. Then comes the vibrational transitions. Vibrational transitions need further lesser energy. So it can happen even with the still further higher wavelength. So in the infrared region, it is possible, right? So this region, for example, here we have some carbon dioxide absorption band around 2.9 micrometer. Then here we have carbon dioxide absorption band, that is around 12 micrometer. It means in the carbon dioxide, vibrational transitions are taking place due to the absorption of this radiation, means radiation at 12 micrometer wavelength, that is radiation in the IR region. Then comes the rotational transitions. Rotational transitions need further lesser energy and can occur even in the microwave region. So from this, it is clear that different gases in the atmosphere absorbs different wavelength radiations and corresponds to different phenomena, that may be ionization, dissociation, electronic transitions, vibrational transitions, or rotational transitions. Then is a black body radiation. So as we know, any black body at a temperature T emit the radiation at a wavelength lambda, which is given by the Planck's function. So any body at a temperature T will emit this amount of the radiation for the wavelength lambda. And if the body is gray, means the emissivity is less than 1, then the Planck's function is modified like this. So we have to add the emissivity in addition to the Planck's function. So here emissivity value actually is 1 for the black body, but here for the gray body it will be less than 1. Now here see these curves are the black body radiation curve for the various temperatures. Like here this highest one is for 300 Kelvin, and this one is the radiation from the Earth's surface at the top of the atmosphere, means the radiation which emitted from the Earth's surface then interact with the various levels in the atmosphere. Then at the top of the atmosphere, what we measure is this one. So if we don't have any atmosphere, then we could have got this curve, but because of the atmosphere, we have got this kind of the spectra, which is due to the absorption of the radiation by various gases corresponding to various wavelength regions. And this is the phenomena, or this is thing that we will use for the retrieval. This band, absorption band, we can use to get the retrieval. Then is atmospheric radiative transfer equation. Now we have seen that any radiation which is starting from the Earth's surface will be modified by the atmosphere. Now if I want to write that in a mathematical form, then we write an equation called as a radiative transfer equation. It gives me the radiation which is reaching the top of the atmosphere after being transmitted through the atmosphere. Means here my I lambda at P is equal to 0. P is equal to 0 means pressure equal to 0. Pressure equal to 0 is at the top of the atmosphere, and our sensor is at the top of atmosphere. So this will correspond to the radiation that will be sensed by the sensor, or the radiation at the top of the atmosphere. And we have mentioned I lambda because for each wavelength this radiation will be different. Now this radiation can be separated into the three main terms, and we'll discuss one by one. First term is the upwelling radiance from the surface, means the radiation which has been emitted from the surface of the earth, how much of it has reached the top of the atmosphere. Like here in this figure, this represents the surface of the earth. So from here this radiation has been emitted, it has passed through the atmosphere and reached the top. So we have to see how much of this has reached the top. Here d lambda Ts is the emission from the Earth's surface. Ts is the surface temperature. So B lambda is the emission from the Earth's surface. Epsilon lambda has been multiplied because our Earth's surface is not a black body, it's a gray body with emissivity epsilon lambda. And then we have multiplied it by transmittance tau lambda, and that too from Ts to 0. That is transmittance from surface pressure to 0. Ps here is the surface pressure and Ps to 0, 0 is the top of the atmosphere. So these terms give me the amount of the radiation which has been emitted by the Earth's surface and reached the top of the atmosphere. Then second term is the direct atmospheric emissions. See, now in addition to the Earth's surface, atmosphere is also emitting some energy, because atmosphere is also have some constituents as well as it has temperature. So each level of the atmosphere will also emit some energy. Now I have to see how much of this energy is reaching the top. So let's consider one level. So from here the energy emitted will be B lambda Tp, where Tp is the temperature at a pressure level P. Right? And then I have to multiply this by the transmittance, and the transmittance will be from this particular level to top of the atmosphere. So transmittance tau lambda from P to 0. Right? But as I have the many levels in the atmosphere, so I should have the term for each level. So in general, we will integrate it from Ps to 0 to include all the levels from the surface to top of the atmosphere. So integration is with respect to pressure. Then third term is reflected downward atmospheric emission. See this level again. Now this will emit energy. Energy will be emitted in the upward direction as well as in the downward direction, right? Because emission will be in all directions. So the energy which is emitted in the downward direction will be given by B lambda Tp, the same as over here. Now it has to come in the downward direction. So I have to multiply the transmittance from this level to Ps. So we have multiplied it by transmittance from P to Ps, from this particular level to Ps. Then from here we have to multiply it by reflectance, and it can be easily proved that the reflectance can be given as 1 minus epsilon lambda, that is emissivity. And then after being reflected from here, it will go again in the top. So I have to multiply this with the transmittance from the surface to top of atmosphere. So that's what we have done here. So tau lambda from Ps to 0. So this is now which will give me the emissions from atmosphere in the downward direction, and then after being reflected from the surface, it is reaching the top. Now again, emission in the downward direction will be from all the atmospheric layers. So we have to integrate it from Ps to 0. So this is the net radiative transfer equation, which will give me the net radiation which has been received at top of the atmosphere due to emissions from the surface as well as the various atmospheric levels, and it is the wavelength dependent. Then comes a weighting function. Now this is the main slide which will tell us how we get the information about a particular level in the atmosphere. Right, see, my sensor is sitting over here, it is receiving energy at this point, right? Now what I'm saying is, I want a temperature at this level. Then how is it possible that sensor is looking at this level and not this and that, right? So exactly I have to see how the energy received by the sensor in a particular band is converted to a information at a particular level in the atmosphere. So the next slide, this one, will help us to understand that. Now to understand this, let's consider an absorption band. Absorption band of any gas. Like here we shown some absorption bands in this. So these are the absorption bands. Like suppose any of this I consider. Suppose I consider say ozone band. Ozone absorption band. This is at 9.6 micrometer. So I'll take one absorption band here. So this on the y-axis we have transmittance. On the x-axis we have lambda. So for different, if I see this curve on the for the different lambdas, I have different transmittances. Now to understand how we get the different level information, let me consider the three wavelengths, lambda 1, lambda 2, lambda 3, in such a way that they have different transmittances. Right, now I will use this curve to understand this plot. Now this plot is transmittance versus pressure. The transmittance from pressure level P to 0. right? Like if I'm telling the transmittance over here, then I mean is transmittance from this level to this level, right? Okay, now consider lambda 1. Lambda 1 is having the high transmittance value. High transmittance means the energy which is emitted from the Earth's surface, almost all the energy is able to reach the top of atmosphere, right? So even at the surface level only, the transmittance start increasing and it reaches 1 at a very soon in the atmosphere, means above this level almost all radiation which is emitted from the atmosphere will reach the top, and from this level only small energy will not reach, or rest all will reach the top of the atmosphere. Then let's consider the lambda 3. Lambda 3 is having the minimum transmittance, means the energy which is emitted from the earth's surface will not be able to reach, but energy which is emitted near the top of the atmosphere may be able to reach the top of atmosphere because of the lower atmosphere in between. So the transmittance will remain 0 even if I go high in the atmosphere. So here for lambda 3, I mean even from this level, if some energy is emitted, it will not be able to reach the top. Only above this level, some energy will be able to reach the top. And again, as I move up in the atmosphere, the transmittance will increase. And again, the increase is due to the lower part of the atmosphere left above the level of the consideration. Now let's consider the lambda 2. Lambda 2 is in between the lambda 1 and lambda 3. Therefore, the lambda 2 curve here will be lying somewhere in between the lambda 1 and lambda 2. Now we'll use this curve to understand this curve. This is the weighting function versus the pressure. So we define the weighting function as change in transmittance with change in pressure. See, here we have the transmittance and here we have the change in transmittance with change in pressure. Again, let's consider first this lambda 1. So as I go high in the atmosphere, suppose there is hardly any, huge change in the transmittance. Even little high, there is a huge change in the transmittance. So the transmittance change is very high over here near the surface. So as I come over here, this change with respect to the same delta P has reduced. So del tau by del P is decreasing as I move up in the atmosphere. Right? Then consider the lambda over here. Now from this point to this point, there is no change in the transmittance. Therefore, we have from this to this, the del tau by del P is 0. But from here, it starts increasing. You see over here, the transmittance is increasing as well as the change in transmittance is also increasing up to this level. So the del tau by del P is increasing here, reaching maxima and then decreases. This decreased point is after this. So from here to here, the transmittance is increasing as well as the change is increasing. But from here to here, transmittance is increasing, but the change in transmittance with change in pressure is decreasing. Therefore, del tau by del P is increasing, decreasing with decrease in the pressure after this maxima. Then let's consider the lambda 2. So lambda 2 is lying in between the lambda 1 and lambda 3. So here also it will lie in between the lambda 1 and lambda 2. So understood this curve, we can see that if my sensor is receiving, suppose the energy only in the wavelength lambda 2, then I can say that that particular band is able to see this much part of the atmosphere only. So it is not seeing the lower part, it is not seeing the upper part. So it is giving me the information about this level only in the atmosphere. So given a set of the lambdas, we can have the information at the various levels in the atmosphere. Like here we have considered 3 lambdas. So we have got the information about the 3 levels, right? So here we can have various bands at the various points of transmittances and can get the various bands in between to get the information at the more levels. But yes, this is correct. One band, given a one band will give me information about the one layer only. And another point to be discussed over here is the band which is giving me the information about some level. It is not a very sharp level. It is a thick layer. It is a layer information. Means when I say the temperature at this level, I mean this is the average over this thick layer, right? So in case this is a weighting function curve, if I want to plot an ideal case, then I will get a straight line over here. But of course, the ideal case doesn't exist. So in the real practice, we have some thickness of the weighting function. Let me repeat this part as it is very important to understand the weighting function. We have took up absorption band, then different lambdas corresponding to different transmittances, and these different transmittances leads to different levels in the atmosphere. The different wavelengths will sense the different levels in the atmosphere. So this is one of the another way to understand the shape of the weighting function. So why this is particular shape of the weighting function? This is another way to understand. Let's consider again 3 points, one near the surface, one in the middle, and one near the top of the atmosphere. So from the near the surface, we will have the more emissions because of the more concentration of the gas as well as the higher temperature. But the energy which is starting from the lower in the atmosphere will have to see the more part of the atmosphere. Therefore, there will be a lot of absorption and only a smaller energy will be able to reach the top of atmosphere. Then comes the upper part. From the upper part, the emissions will be less. Why? Because one, temperature will be less as well as the concentration of the gases will be lower. But it will see lesser part of the atmosphere above it. Therefore, absorption will also be less. Then comes the medium part. In the medium part, the emissions will be medium and the absorption will also be in the medium range only, but it lies in such a way that maximum energy reaches from somewhere in the middle level. So that's how we get this shape of the atmosphere, which is called as a bell shape of the weighting function. So this is the example of the weighting function for INSAT 3D sounder. INSAT 3D is a satellite launched in 2013. So it has a sounder with 18 channels. Right, sounder is a normal sensor only, just it have the more number of the channels so that it can give the information about the more number of the levels, and when it give the information about the levels, we call it as a sounder. Now here let's see this middle curve. So we have the channel number 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 over here. Like for example, channel number 2 corresponds to this red curve. So this red curve, so I say that this is giving me the information about this level. So this level is around 100 to 200 hectopascal. So this channel number 2 is giving me information about this layer of the atmosphere. Similarly, in this we see like green, this is for the channel number 12. So channel number 12 is giving me the information about this 200 to 300 hectopascal layer. Similarly, we have the various channels for INSAT 3D sounder. And the summary of the weighting function. So weighting functions are derived from the vertical change of the transmittances, del tau by del P. Vertical change of transmittance with respect to pressure is the weighting function. Weighting function specifies the relative contribution to the outgoing gradients from the various levels in the atmosphere. Weighting function determines the layer of the atmosphere that is sensed for a given spectral channel. So each spectral channel will sense one layer of the atmosphere, and the weighting function will tell us which layer is that layer which is being sensed by a particular channel. The peak occurs at the pressure level that provides the largest contribution detected by the satellite. The contribution from individual spectral channel comes from the deep and overlapping layers. Here the overlapping means, see over here. So we have got the information in the various layers, but if we see, these layers are overlapping. For example, here this green and red curve, they have some overlapping area also. So that is the meaning over here. These channels are not ideal channels. These have the overlapping weighting function. So these are the some important points of the sounding. Observation in the wings of the spectral band of a strong absorber probe deep in the atmosphere. Right? It means that in the wings of spectral bands, this is absorption band. Wings means this one. This point means having the high transmittance. High transmittance means energy from the lower level is able to reach the top. It means that a channel with the wavelength near this point will be able to sense the lower part of the atmosphere also. So that is a meaning over here. Observation in the wings of a spectral band of strong absorber probe deep in the atmosphere. Absorption in the band center sees only the top layer of the atmosphere. See here, the transmittance is very low. So energy only near the top will be able to reach the top of the atmosphere. So we may have the appropriate set of the sounding frequencies to get the atmospheric sounding, means the information at the various levels. So I may have the bands at the various points over here and can get the information about the various levels in the atmosphere. Then is for temperature profile, the source of emissions must be abundant gas of known and uniform distribution. Now to discuss this point, let's go back to the radiative transfer equation here. So see, this is a radiative transfer equation. In this point, this thing our sensor will give. This is a Planck's function anyways, we can put. Here the temperature is sitting over here and the transmittance. Transmittance depend on the atmospheric constituents, and anyways we need the temperature to get the I lambda reading. Now sensor will give me I lambda, but temperature profile I don't know because I want to retrieve, and also the trace gases I don't know because I want to retrieve. Now with only one information I cannot have the two unknowns. Like I will have only one equation, so I cannot find both the transmittance and temperature together. So I have to assume that I know one thing, and that assumption should have some specific basis. And we know that the uniform and well distributed gases are known. For example, carbon dioxide and oxygen are uniformly distributed in the atmosphere, and we have a good information about those gases. So it means if I work in the carbon dioxide absorption band, then I shall have the information about the transmittances. The transmittance, this everywhere I will have the information about the transmittance, and the only unknown will be the temperature. So given the transmittance information, I can get the temperature profile using the satellite data. This is the energy which we'll receive from the satellite, right? But the one point to be taken care is I must be working in the carbon dioxide band. Like my sounder should be sensing in this band. If this band is they are working, means I have the carbon dioxide information, and then using this equation we can find out the temperature profile. So that's what it's written over here. For temperature profile, the source of emission must be abundant gas of known and uniform distribution. For example, carbon dioxide in infrared and oxygen in the microwave region. For well mixed gases, carbon dioxide and oxygen, we assume that mixing ratio is known and independent of height. For uniformly distributed gases, emitted radiance is a function of temperature profile. That's what we have discussed. So because once I have the transmittance information, only the temperature is unknown. 15 micrometer and 4.3 micrometer carbon dioxide bands are used for temperature sounding in IR region. So once a temperature profile is known, water vapor profile can be retrieved using water vapor absorption band. See, if I want to retrieve some trace gas, then I should have the temperature information. So what we normally do, we first retrieve the temperature information using the carbon dioxide band, and then we use that temperature information in some other band to get the information about the trace gases. Let's again go back to the absorption bands. See over here. First, what I'll do, I'll use these bands, that is carbon dioxide absorption band, get the temperature profile, and now suppose I want to get the water vapor information. Then I will use these band, that is around 6.7 micrometer. So I'll use the bands around this band to get the water vapor information given the temperature profile, which has been retrieved using the carbon dioxide band. And suppose now I want the ozone information also, then I will use the ozone band, but given the temperature profile, right? Similarly, for any other trace gas, we can work. Right, so once temperature profile is known, water vapor profile can be retrieved using water vapor absorption band. 6.3 micrometer water vapor band is used for water vapor sounding. No wavelengths are completely free of absorption by variable trace gases. This contributes to error in the retrieving temperature. Yes, we said we can use the carbon dioxide band, but that wavelength will also be absorbed by some trace gases, will be very less, but there will be some absorption, but we are not taking care of that, so this will lead to some errors. right? And also errors in the knowledge of the temperature results in the error of the trace gases retrieval. See, error introduced in this step for the temperature retrieval, then it will introduce further error for the retrieval of the trace gases. Okay, then comes the weighting function versus the zenith angle of the observation. Till now when we discussed just suppose that my sensor is sitting over here and looking vertically downward. Now what if my sensor is sitting over here and looking this way? Okay, as the sounder sees off Nadi, theta increases and the path from the earth's surface to top of the atmosphere increases. See, this path is longer than this path. Therefore, the absorber gas is more in this path than this path. So what will happen to the weighting function? If I'll go from this part to this part, absorber gas is more, so sensor will not be able to see deep. Then it means that the weighting function will shift high in the atmosphere. Like if my weighting function is lying over here, it will shift here. Or if it is lying over here, it will shift little high in the atmosphere. So this is the one example of the weighting function at two scan angles for scanning microwave spectrometer. So it has three bands. See, this band, that is 52.8 gigahertz, it has been shifted at this level. This band is shifted over here and this 55 gigahertz band has been shifted over here. Observation at single wavelength but at several zenith angle could be used to retrieve the atmospheric temperature profile. See, now I know that the zenith angle, so if I am looking over here, I know the weighting function is here, means I am getting the information at this level. So if I am looking slant, means I know I am getting the information at this level. So similarly, I can have the various zenith angle to have the information at various level in the atmosphere. This was the original idea for the sounding of the atmosphere from the satellite. But these days we use different methods. Right? Then this zenith angle also leads to the limb brightening and limb darkening. How it happens is, like in the first case, suppose that my weighting function is lying in the stratosphere. And I know that as I move high in the stratosphere, temperature increases. So if the zenith angle increases, means weighting function shift high in the atmosphere. Means the temperature has increased. So emissions will be higher. Emissions will be higher, so it leads to the limb brightening, means I am getting the more energy. Right? Limb brightening is of nadir will be little brighter than the nadir pixels. And similarly, limb darkening is happen in case the weighting function is lying in the troposphere. In the troposphere, we know that as we move high in the atmosphere, temperature decreases. So temperature decreases means lesser energy will be reaching the top. So it will lead to the limb darkening, that is along the limbs will have the little darkness or the lesser energy as compared to the nadir pixels. Right? Then is the discussion of the inverse problem. See, retrieval is the inverse problem. Retrieval means getting the information of the temperature and trace gases given the information of the energy at the top of the atmosphere. Means I have to reverse this equation, or I have to solve this equation the inverse way. So that's why this is called as a inverse problem. Right? So inverse problem in satellite meteorology is to obtain the state of the atmosphere in terms of its vertical profile of temperature and constituents from the radiance measurement. Right? Then is the inverse problem is ill-posed, that is under constraint. What is the meaning? We know we have the finite measurements because our sensor will have some finite number of the bands, maybe 10, 20, 30. So we have the finite measurement, and the temperature profile is a continuous function. So temperature profile at all levels, if I consider, it is a continuous function. So continuous function means we have the infinite number of the unknowns to be retrieved. So that this makes the problem as a ill-posed. So we have to solve this problem. So how do we do it? We make the atmospheric profile discretized at some particular vertical levels, so that the inverse problem become well posed and theoretically an exact solution become possible. So it means that instead of taking the continuous profile, I'll take the temperature profile at few points in the atmosphere. Okay. Then the second problem is, it is the ill-conditioned. Inverse problem is ill-conditioned because error in the radiances measurement can be greatly amplified, making the solution meaningless. right? Because in whatever radiance we get from the sensor, it has always some error associated with it that is called as noise equivalent radiance or noise equivalent temperature. So when we solve the inverse problem, this error can be greatly amplified, which make these problem ill-conditioned. How to solve this problem? To solve this problem, we take a first guess profile. First guess profile means we'll take some rough estimate of the temperature, because by now we know that what should be the temperature structure approximately. For example, as in the troposphere it decreases, and in the stratosphere it increases. So that structure we take, and then we use the satellite measurements to correct the already guess temperature profile. And so now we have the various methods to get the retrieval. First method is statistical retrieval, then physical retrieval, and hybrid retrieval. So we'll discuss one by one. In the statistical retrieval, we use a training data set to establish a relation between the input parameter and the parameter to be retrieved. The input parameter over here will be the satellite data, that is the radiance observed or the energy observed, and the parameter that we want to retrieve maybe the temperature profile or the humidity profile or any trace gas profile. So let us suppose that we want to retrieve the temperature profile, and I am denoting it by X. So a training data set means I should have for some points the temperature profile as well as the satellite data, that is the radiance. So what we'll do to get the training data set, we will see the satellite pass time over my study area. Suppose India is my study area, then I will see the pass time over the India, and corresponding to that time we will launch the radio sonde and get the temperature profile. This will do at the various points, I mean as many points as possible, so that I can have the corresponding temperature profile as well as the radiance. Means corresponding means same lat long as well as time. So once I have that data, I will try to fit a regression relation in this way, that is dx is equal to rc into dy, where rc is the regression coefficient and dx is x minus x mean. That is, if we are discussing about temperature profile, then temperature profile or temperature profile minus mean temperature profile. dy is y minus y mean, right? So rc is the regression coefficient. So once I have the training data set means dx as well as dy, then we will use dx and dy in this equation to get the rc. So once I have the rc, that rc can be used again in this equation to get the x, right? And this rc we can easily derive from here if I multiply both sides by the dy transpose and then again multiply by the dy into dy transpose inverse. I can easily get this rc, that is regression coefficient. And also if I substitute dx and dy from here to here, then this equation we can easily get, right? So in the statistical retrieval, we need the training data set, and this training data set is used to get the regression coefficient, and these regression coefficient can be used in future with the satellite observation to get the temperature profile. And similarly, we can get the regression relation for any other profile, temperature profile, trace gas profile, and we can get the information. So what is the requirement of the dataset? The dataset must be large enough to ensure the retrieval metrics to be stable. So we need the large dataset. Large dataset we need so that it covers all possible state of the atmosphere. The dataset must be co-located for each satellite because of the small differences in the radiometer in each. It means that if I making the algorithm for one satellite, I should make it for different satellites separately, because in each the radiometers are different, right? So there may be an intercalibration problem. So we need to develop the algorithm for each satellite separately. The dataset must be updated frequently because, for example, the dataset collected in the winter cannot be expected to yield the accurate retrieval in the summers, because the atmospheric conditions in the winters and summers are quite different. So we have to update the dataset frequently. And the dataset should be divided into the latitude zone and by the surface type. Again, the reason different latitudes have the different atmospheric conditions. Well, then what are the advantages of the statistical retrieval? The actual retrievals are computationally easy Once we can find the regression coefficient, and it can be used easily to get the profile. And it requires no knowledge of transmittances or use of radiative transfer equation. This is the biggest advantage. We have not used the radiative transfer equation, means we need not to solve it, which actually takes a lot of time because we need to make the model to solve the radiative transfer equation. Also, we don't need the transmittance information because we have not used any trace gas information in this. Right? Then disadvantages are physical processes are embedded in the statistics. See, physical processes I have not considered over here, but it is there. It is affecting the retrieval. So it will definitely affect the accuracy of a retrieval. Right? Then disadvantage is training dataset of the coincident space and time collocated radio sonde and satellite data should be large enough to ensure the retrieval metrics to be stable. And the collection of this data set is of course a difficult and very much time consuming. Like for example, if I want to get my algorithm for 1 year, then I need to wait for 1 year, full 1 year to launch a radio sonde for every satellite pass. And it is costly also. We need to employ people to do all this work, right? So what is the alternative? Like what is the alternative is we can use the synthetic data set. In the synthetic data set, what we do is we have some well established set of the atmospheric data set. Like there are data sets available which will be covering the atmospheric conditions like atmospheric temperature, humidity and transmittances information all, right? And those data set can be used in the radiative transfer model to simulate the top of the atmospheric radiance. Simulate means what we are saying over here is I will use the radiative transfer equation. Here, one second. Like here, what we are saying is we will have the data set, some data set where we will have the temperature as well as the transmittances information. We will use this equation to find out to calculate actually the top of atmospheric radiance. But this is a simulated, this is not actually satellite absorbed. This is calculated and calculation by the model. The model is nothing but the radiative transfer equation. So this data we call it as a simulated data or the synthetic data because we have synthesized it, right? So once I have the synthesized data from the radiative transfer model, then again we can use this equation to find out the radiative regression coefficient, and then again the regression coefficients can be used to find out any parameter that we want to retrieve, right? So in the statistical retrieval, the advantage is we don't need the radiative transfer equation to solve again and again. Only once to generate the synthetic data we have to solve, and once we have done it, then the regression coefficient can be used to find out any parameter that I want to retrieve. Then comes the physical retrieval. In the physical retrieval, we are using the radiative transfer equation in many steps. So what we are doing over here is we are taking a first guess profile, as we have already mentioned, because my inverse problem is ill-conditioned. So I have to take a first guess profile. And what are the options of the first guess profile is either I can take the forecast profile. Forecast profile is the output of the numerical weather prediction model that we continuously get. Either I can use the forecast profile or I can take a regression retrieval. Means the profile, temperature profile that I have got from this technique. Here I have written some temperature profile. So that profile can be used in the physical retrieval method to further improve the accuracy. So once I have the profile, then we will calculate the weighting functions, right? And then we compute the radiances. This y is equal to fxn. F stands for forward model. Forward model means solving of the radiative transfer equation in the forward direction. So we'll compute the radiances. Now we will compare these radians with the satellite radiances. But before we take the satellite radiance, we do the cloud detection test. So from the satellite radiances, we do the cloud detection or clearing. So if the clear pixels are less than 25%, we say that my field of the view is cloudy and exit. But if the clear pixels are greater than 25%, then we'll take the average radiances of all the clear pixels. And this radiance will be compared with the radiances computed over here, right? So whatever difference we will get, we will compare that difference with the threshold. And the threshold is the noise equivalent radiance, NE delta R, that is noise equivalent radiance. So if my residual or the difference is less than the threshold, then I say that my physical retrieval is successful and the first case profile, whatever I have taken, will be called as the output physically read profile. But what if my residual is greater than threshold? Then we will adjust the temperature profile to say from xn to xn plus 1. Then again compute the radiances. And here again we will compare it with the satellite radiances. So if residual is less than threshold, we will come out and say the physical retrieval successful. But if again my residual is greater than threshold, we will again go back and adjust the profile and compute the radiances. Now this cycle will go on until the iterations are 8. So if the iterations are more than 8 and I am not able to get the residual less than threshold, then I will say that my physical retrieval fails. The physical retrieval is not able to give me the profile, and the first case profile will be taken as the final profile. So in this physical retrieval, we have used the radiative transfer equation and weighting function as well as a non-linear iterations, because this is the solving of the problem is non-linear, right? So in the physical retrieval, we take the first case profile, calculate weighting function, then compute the radiances. The radiances is compared with the sounded radiances. If the difference is less than a threshold fixed, we say the physical retrieval is successful. And if it is greater than threshold, we adjust the profile unless we get the residual less than threshold, or the number of iterations are 8. So what are the advantages and disadvantages of physical retrieval? Advantages are physical processes are clearly evident at each stage of the retrieval. So we have taken the physical processes of the atmosphere into account. And we don't need large data set of the coincident radio sonde data. So that kind of this exercise is not required. So disadvantages, method is computationally intensive. So of course it takes a lot of time to solve the problem because the model is running in the labs, as well as a high-end performance computers are also required to solve the problem. And it requires the accurate knowledge of transmittances, means atmospheric information, constituents, various trace gases, information is required. Right? So the advantage is physical process is there, large coincident data set is not required, but disadvantage is computationally intensive and transmittance knowledge is required. Then the third method is the hybrid retrieval. In the hybrid retrieval, we use radiative transfer equation and weighting function, but we linearize the radiative transformation to use the matrix inversion. See, in the physical retrieval, we took radiative transfer equation, weighting function, but non-linear solving of the radiative transfer equation was involved. But here we use the radiative transfer equation and weighting function and then linearize the radiative transfer equation to allow the matrix inversion. Right? The hybrid methods are in between the physical and statistical retrieval. They are much like the statistical retrieval, but they do not require a large training data set. In this method, we also solve the regression coefficient. So that's how they are similar to the statistical retrieval. So they use the weighting function like physical retrieval, but they do not directly involve the integration of radiative transfer equation. So advantages in hybrid method is it is easier to implement than statistical or physical method, and it do not require the large coincident data set of one-day and satellite data. Disadvantages, it requires accurate knowledge of transmittances. So transmittances knowledge is required, but solving of the non-linear solving of radiative transformation is not required. Now to summarize, there is no unique solution for detailed vertical profile of temperature or an absorbing constituent, because outgoing gradients arises from relatively deep layer of the atmosphere. Right? Our weighting function is not a sharp peak. We have some thickness of the layer. Right? And the radiances observed within the various spectral channels come from the overlapping layer of atmosphere and are not vertically independent of each other because the weighting function are overlapping. So information in the various bands is not independent, they are related. That's why the unique solution is not possible. And the measurement of outgoing gradients possesses error, that is noise equivalent radiances. Therefore, we have the large number of the analytical approaches to solve the inverse problem, that is the retrieval problem. So these are the few reasons because of which we don't have the unique solution. Therefore, we need to have the analytical approaches. So that's why we have a number of the methods like statistical method, physical method, hybrid retrieval method, and there are few more. Okay, then comes the limb sounding. Till now, without mentioning, but whenever we discuss a sounding, we assume that my sensor is looking vertically downward or some slant angle, right? So that is called as a nadir sounding. Now, in the limb sounding, my sensor over here, it doesn't see the surface. It see only the atmosphere. That is, it see along the limb of the earth, like this over here, right? So when we see what will be the radiative transfer equation for this kind of the sounding, that is in case of limb sounding, what should the radiative transfer equation? So I have written the same equation, but I have cut the two terms. Why? See over here, the first term will not be there. Why? Because here we have d lambda ts, that is emission from the surface of the earth, but we are not seeing the surface of the earth, so this term will be 0 for us. Then we have cut this term also because we have the reflectance from the earth surface. Here we also not considering any reflectance from the earth surface. So the only one term will be left, which is the direct emissions from the atmosphere towards the sensor. So the limb sounding, in limb sounding, radiative transfer equation have only this term. Okay. So what are the advantages of the limb sounding? In limb sounding, we have very sharp weighting function at tangent height because the sensor senses nothing below the tangent height and atmospheric density decreases exponentially above the tangent height. See, this is an example of the weighting functions, various weighting functions for a limb sounder. So this is the tangent height. Now sensor doesn't see anything below the tangent height, right? So this is a tangent, and this is a tangent height. So we will have a very sharp weighting function at this level. So you see the sharp weighting function over here, it increases very sharply, and after that it decreases slowly. This is because of the decrease in the atmospheric density. So we have a very sharp weighting function at tangent height, and sharp weighting function means I will have the better vertical resolution. And we don't have any surface effect. Any surface of the earth effect is not there. Background is cool and uniform. And 60 times more absorber gas in the limb path, right? So when my sensor see nadir, only this much atmosphere is we are seeing, but here we are looking at the bigger part of the atmosphere. So there is a calculation according to which, if I am using it for trace gases, approximately trace gases 60 times more than the nadir path. Therefore, it is appropriate for the trace gas sounding and temperature sounding at high altitudes. See, why do I need the more trace gas to get the trace gas information is because trace gases are very less quantity in the atmosphere. So any change in the trace gas will lead to some change in the energy which I can sense. But if that change is higher, then only I will be able to sense that change because my sensor has the limitation of the radiometric resolution also. So if the radiometric resolution also, if I have the more gas means if there is small change, it will be, I can see the change higher along the limb path than the nadir path because limb path has the more quantity of the gas, right? So that's why limb sounding is more appropriate for trace gases. Then comes the disadvantage. In the disadvantage is there is a cloud in the limb path. Suppose if there is a cloud in the limb path, then whole sounding is gone. Then we cannot get any information. And it gives a poor horizontal resolution. Of course, we are in the long part of the atmosphere, so the horizontal resolution is not very good because exactly tangent point is this one, but we are looking at the atmosphere even above this height, even above this place. So that's how horizontal resolution is not very good. Right, so these are the few examples. SAGE, stratospheric aerosol and gas experiment. They sample the atmosphere measuring the extinction of sunlight during the sunrise or sunset. See here, what we have seen here is my sensor is looking at the emissions of the atmosphere. But in the SAGE, what's happening is, so if there is a sun over here, then sun's energy will be passing through the atmosphere and reaching the sensor. So this energy is received while the sun moving up over here or down over here, means sunrise or sunset. So during the sunrise or sunset, the energy is received and this energy is used for the various kind of the retrieval. Right, so Sage 1 was onboard Nimbus 7, Sage 2 was onboard Earth Radiation Budget Satellite, Sage 3 on Russian Meteor 3M, and the next Sage will be flown on ISS, that is International Space Station, in 2016. In the microwave, we have microwave limb sounder onboard Aura, and we also have the tropospheric emission spectrometer. This is nadir as well as limb sounder. It has one provision, it can look nadir as well as the limb depending on the requirement. This is also onboard Aura. So it has a Fourier transform spectrometer observing thermal emission of Earth's surface and atmosphere. So here Fourier transform spectrometer means in this range from 3.5 to 15.4 micrometer range, it will see the various bands, not 5, 6, 10 bands. It will see thousands of the bands in between. It will use a Fourier transformation to get the information in the various bands. So it will be a hyperspectral sounder. Right? Means it will have more number of the bands. Then comes the satellite observing capabilities, geostationary versus polar satellites. In terms for the sounder, now if I have the sounder, whether it is better at the low Earth orbit or at the geostationary orbit, so that's what we will see here. So in the low Earth orbit, that is polar satellite, it can give us the global coverage, but they will have the lower temporal resolution, right? But it will give the high spatial resolution because they are near the surface. And hyperspectral infrared sounding is also possible, again because these are near the surface. Microwave sounding is also possible, and active LiDAR for clouds, aerosol and wind, water vapor as well as ozone are possible. So I hope you understand why active is possible on the low Earth orbit but not in the geostationary, because geostationary orbit is very high, that is around 36,000 km, and low Earth orbit ranges from 800 to 1000 km. So from the geostationary orbit, the benefit is high temporal resolution, but it gives only the regional coverage, that is a disadvantage. And also no microwave sounding is possible, and it is not covering the polar region. Hyperspectral sounding till now has not been done, it was disadvantage, but now there is a future plan of the hyperspectral sounder on the geostationary orbit. So GIFTS is a satellite which is going to have the hyperspectral sounding from the geostationary orbit. Then the atmospheric sounder, again infrared versus microwave. What are the advantages, disadvantages in the two, and what are the various examples of the infrared and microwave sounders? Infrared sounders includes NOAA HIRS, high resolution infrared sounder. It had 20 channels. Then we had a series of the sounders over the GOES satellite. GOES is the geostationary operational environmental satellite. This sensor has 18 channels. It is very similar to the recently launched InSat 3D sounder, which is also having 19 channels. Also in the infrared region, we have hyperspectral sounders which are providing higher spectral resolution. Examples are Aqua AIRS, means AIRS onboard Aqua. AIRS is the atmospheric infrared sounder with 2378 channels. Then we have EASI onboard METOP with 8461 channels. Then we have NPP's CRIS channel, CRIS sensor. Now what are the advantages? These have the higher vertically resolved information. Why? Because we have large number of the channels, we have the large number of the bands, means we are able to see the many levels in the atmosphere. Another advantage of IR sounder is in the IR region, surface emissivity is less variable. So whatever variability we are getting will be due to the atmosphere, right? And it is the higher, it gives a higher spatial resolution also, because energy in the IR region is more than the microwave region, because Earth's emissions are higher in the infrared region. But IR region is sensitive to the clouds, so we cannot see inside and under the clouds. For microwave sounder, the examples are NOAA AMSU, Advanced Microwave Sounding Unit A with 15 channel, AMSU B with 5 channel, MHS Microwave Humidity Sounder with 5 channels, and we have MWTS Chinese mission, then NWHS, then DMSP SSMIS with 24 channels, then Megatrophic SAFI, this is the Indian sounder. So here we have high variable surface emissivity, this is a disadvantage. In the microwave region, the emissivity is itself is a variability. So it also varies. So we have to do the correction corresponding to emissivity, and it has a lower spatial resolution because of the lower energy. So we need to have the bigger footprint. But the advantage is it is very less sensitive to the clouds. Therefore, we can get the information in the cloudy area also. Right? Then these are the examples of the various sounders, right? Along with the, you can say this, starting we have IRIS, then we go to HIRS, then BAS, HIS goes sounder, then comes to the hyperspectral sounders from the low Earth orbit, and the future is the hyperspectral sounder from the geostationary orbit. So this is the example of the bands of the GOES imager and sounder. So imager is showing with the red line and sounder with the green line. So we are concentrating on the sounder. So let's see the green part. So we see the bands are very wide. Bands are very wide if we compare it with the air sounder. So air sounder, it has around 2000 bands. However, GOES sounder has only 18 bands. So these bands are very wide. But in case of the airs, we have the small bands spread in this region. And these are the weighting function corresponding to these bands. So we have the information at various levels in the atmosphere, but we need to care that these bands are overlapping bands. So the information is overlapping. So all bands are not useful. We need to get the useful bands of it. There are the various techniques available to deal with the hyperspectral data. This is the example which is showing the brightness temperature at 1000 centimeter inverse. One is the ascending pass granules and one is the descending pass granule. So it is giving the global coverage daily, and the major products of the airs are surface skin temperature, atmospheric temperature profile at 101 pressure levels, total precipitable water, to atmospheric moisture profile, total column ozone, atmospheric ozone profile, as well as the surface emissivity at 10 wavelengths. Then comes the last part, that is the radio occultation sounding of the atmosphere. In this, what we do, we use the GPS satellites as well as the low Earth satellite. What happens is GPS sends some signal, and when that signal passes through the atmosphere, there is some attenuation due to the pass from the atmosphere and then received by a sensor in a low Earth orbit. Now, the modification in the signal due to the Earth's atmosphere is used to get the information about the atmospheric constituent, right? So an occultation occurs when the orbital motion of a GPS satellite and the LEO are such that the LEO sees the GPS rise or set across the limb. So again, as in case of the solar occultation, here also we see that when LEO can see the GPS rise or set, at that time the information is sensed by the LEO. So how much coverage we have daily? There are 2 occultation per orbit per LEO GPS pair, one while rising, one while setting, and we have 12 LEO orbits per day and 24 GPS satellites are there. Therefore, we have 2 into 14 into 24, that is approximately 700 occultations per day. And the major parameters that we are getting from this kind of the geometry is temperature and humidity profile. But here the plus point is the vertical resolution is very good in the upper atmosphere, as well as the accuracy is good in this technique. But till now we are getting the temperature and humidity profile, that too in the upper atmosphere. So these are the few examples of this mission where we use the radio occultation to get the various profiles. So that's all from my side.